Says we're live, so we're good to go. What's up, everybody? FusedVR coming at ya, and it's been a long time since I've actually done a stream, so super excited to be back. And it's just gonna be a very different stream than what we usually do, and just gonna go over what's happened in VR over the past week or so. I have my chat open here on my phone. Let me show you guys. There you go. And so, yeah, just wanted to talk with you guys. Some quick things before I kind of dive into this. One, want to know if this you think is useful as far as just for you guys. I've been trying to think through ways to make the live stream something that's applicable to everyone. Specifically, I mean, the tutorials were super fun, but I know some of you didn't like them, some of you did like them, so I kind of wanted to make these live streams something that everyone can enjoy and something that is just useful overall. So super looking forward to your feedback as far as that's concerned. Number two is I'm here in FusedVR. They have a space in Mountain View, and I think it's somewhere like over here, maybe, that it's just kind of a quick blurb about them. Basically, high level, I've mentioned them a couple times in the past, but they are a giant community here in Silicon Valley, and they're trying to ramp up. They've got a huge warehouse here, and if I wasn't tied down by wires, I'd actually walk you through the space. There's just so much here to both on VR, both if you want to host events. It's a really awesome space. So if you are in the Bay Area, I highly recommend that you take a look at the space. They have meetups pretty much every month and some other events as well. So they also have a membership. So for $150 a month, you can have 24/7 access to the space, which is really nice. And I mean, in my opinion, it's actually a pretty cheap deal. So something to consider if you want access to space, if you want access to VR, if you want access to AR. They have so much stuff here, and I really love their community focus aspect. That is not a sponsored thing by any means. This is just, I really like what they're doing, and we do events with them as well. So just wanted to say that there. If you are not in the Bay Area, I should mention that let me know in the chat if there's anything specific you want to see done with this space. One thing I thought was very interesting at the last meetup, they streamed in through Facebook Spaces, a speaker, granted, he wasn't actually really that far away, but it could happen from anywhere. And you can just stream yourself in, and if you have anything to talk about, or if there's anything that you think would be interesting, they can actually have like a Q&A from the real world into VR, and you can see the audience ask questions. I think it's a really cool concept. And that's all the stuff that FusedVR is kind of working towards. So I wanted to mention that quickly because I think it's important, just to mention. And last thing is our team has been focusing a lot on Instagram, and I'll actually pull that up for a second. So you can see a bunch of stuff. We're just playing around a lot with augmented reality. So this is working with artists, seeing how we can bring that into, like, say, Snapchat. So on here with an AR studio. We did a motion still video from Google. So a lot of cool stuff. We'll try to post like 2 really short videos. I think that they work better on Instagram. And you can see here, I just did a like quick little like short little tips tutorial. This is like less than 20 seconds. So we're putting a lot of that stuff on Instagram. So if you want to follow us there, that would be super appreciated. And again, always open to feedback and being part of the community. So let me just quickly take a look here. Yep, I'm going to talk about Pro Builder. That stuff looks amazing. I need help in AR on tap tutorial. Some type of Pradeep, are you looking for AR Kit, AR Core, or Lens Studio or AR Studio? Let me know. Let me know in the chat. So surprisingly, as much as VR is actually pretty segregated, AR is also very split across a variety of platforms. So it's always useful to know which platform you're actually trying to develop for. So that said, let's just kind of go quickly over this. The stream should hopefully be, about 20 to 30 minutes. I'm trying to keep these somewhat short so that they're hopefully useful as videos later on as well. So mention Silicon Valley virtual reality if you want to check them out. So first thing is Pro Builder. This is something that actually got announced today, and this is just at a high level, it's a super useful tool that actually helps you do quick prototypes of level design. So if we scroll down here to some of the GIFs, and again, there are links to everything in the description, which probably might be better if you're looking at the GIFs. But you can see here, you can build out meshes pretty quickly. Obviously, it's nowhere near as fancy as like an actual 3D editor, but you can do extrudes and inserts. You can do some procedural shapes. Got UVs, and you can create pretty much whatever you want. It's actually a really, really interesting tool. And you can see something like you have with Super Hot. You can create some like really weird models, and you can also do some painting and texturing. So you can kind of think of it like the terrain editor within Unity, but on steroids. So this thing is really, really, really impressive. You have, and yeah, it's just free. It didn't used to be, I don't actually know what the price was before, but Unity is really working towards kind of making themselves the go-to editor for game dev, for VR dev, for AR dev, and this is one of those steps that I'm pretty sure you'll start to see this integrated with Editor VR and maybe something down the pipe, or maybe some even separate app that Unity makes. But I think that will be pretty interesting as far as where this goes into the future, because this is just the starting point of giving something to game devs. I'm pretty sure this is more of a bigger step towards making Unity a bit more accessible to everybody. AR Basic Studio. There's a separate tool, Polybrush. It was like $150. That is wild. But yeah, this is free now. Abdo, let me know in the chat, is there anything like this for Unreal? Kind of want to know if this is kind of more of an attack against Unreal, because I always like seeing that type of stuff, but that's probably not what this is. So that's Pro Builder in a nutshell. I think it's super awesome that Unity is moving towards that, and I think we're about a month away from GDC. You'll expect a lot more info on kind of Unity's path towards what they're doing for 2018 sometime around then. So I'm super excited for that. And then you have Vision Summit after that. You have a bunch of Unity conferences. It's kind of crazy. So yeah, that's one of the major steps that they're doing. This came out, I think, on the 9th, so it's getting almost towards the end of the week. But the Humble Bundle store, more specifically, not a Humble Bundle, but the Humble Bundle store is putting out a bunch of discounts as far as a lot of pretty amazing VR titles. So you got Super Hot here, you got Fallout, I believe. So you've got Tarantino, you've got Batman, and I think there's one more page. Let's see what else is here. Nothing that I recognize off the top of my head, but a lot of stores. Kind of just goes to show, and the reason I wanted to bring it up is, one, if you want any of these games, get it now, and two, I think it just goes to show that the other side of the gaming community is starting to take a look into this, and it just kind of broadens the scope a little bit more. Granted, people probably don't have the headsets that they need, but it's still nice to see that kind of the games aspect of VR is moving more and more towards kind of the global game community, as opposed to just being locked off in its own way, unless you search for something like VR, which I had to do here. But that's I think something that's really cool, and I think Humble Bundle kind of encompasses that. So that's another, I think, interesting step in my mind that kind of came out this week. Next, we got good old Magic Leap. There are 3 big announcements. I think it all has to do with the fact that they're releasing the 1 soon for developers. And real quick before I go to that, a couple questions. So Pradeep was on AR Studio. So yeah, could try. I'd recommend, if there's anything that you want us to look at, we have a waffle. I don't remember if I've linked it down in the description, but if not, I will link it to it right after this, or maybe Abdo can. That's probably the easiest way for anyone to just tell us what type of tutorials they want. It'll help us easily categorize it. I've kind of hidden it a little bit, so hopefully these streams can kind of make it so that that's not the case. But yeah, Waffle is probably the easiest way if you have any specific things, and allows us to easily connect with you guys. Looking for a job. Yeah, there are quite a lot of jobs. I feel like there are more jobs than ever now in the VR AR space. Where are you based out of, Pradeep? I'm kind of curious, because I think that also kind of plays a role a little bit. Hopefully VR and AR can actually break down those barriers. Is the any deal? Oh, that's probably a good call, Jawad, just to make sure that you're checking that all the deals are out. I feel like the Humble Bundle store is probably the cheapest, but I probably could be wrong there too. The sale is over. From the link, it looked like it was still on, but if you're watching this in the future, it's definitely over. Keep that in mind as well. In the chat function in their Unity community system might be some benefits like saving. Oh, that's a good call. Thanks for the chip, Jawa. I'll just read it out loud. Is that to consider using the chat function in the Unity community system to actually save this stuff. That's actually useful. We have in the stream right now like a little small thing to show kind of what's happening in the chat, but I think saving the chat would also be super useful. All right, I don't see any other comments, so I'll just keep diving into more of the news. So magically, 3 big things are live streaming holograms, and holograms is kind of a vague term, but the NBA with Shaq, and you have the fact that they got funding. So I'm going to start with funding and then move backwards, just because that was kind of the sequence. So you have an additional funding round. I believe this is after Series D, or it is part of Series D. This goes, yeah. So the latest one was in October 2017, and then this is kind of, you could call it a Series E, or you could call it like a seed. I don't really know what you call it in investment terms, but they got additional funding. It's interesting, right? Because you always have to ask the question why, and I don't know why they would need funding other than for manufacturing. The underestimated budget, maybe, I don't know. So it's a little confusing there, but needless to say, they needed more money than what they can, and at least they got it in case they need it, but it's kind of concerning that they may be running close to their budget. Maybe not, I don't know, but we'll have to see. I'm always very skeptical about Magic Leap and what's going to happen to them. I feel like they're very overhyped for the tech that they're going to deliver. I've never tried it, but just from patents and kind of miscellaneous information that kind of leaks out about them, you can always be a little skeptical, especially after, what was it, 2018, and the device I think was announced 2014, maybe earlier. It's it's weird. So I'm always a little skeptical about those guys. Next we have the NBA. So we have Shaq. I can't tell if this is photoshopped or he's actually wearing the thing. I feel like it's photoshopped. But I mean, yeah, they need content. This is a step in the right direction. I don't know like what type of content they're gonna do. If it's like miniature holograms like right here in front of me and I can see them, maybe, I don't know. Or maybe it's something like it's actually in my, this would be better. It's actually like in a room like I am in right now, and I'm like, I see the side court, or maybe I'm like, I am the basketball hoop. That would be interesting. I don't think it's gonna go that direction. Maybe it will. But I think it's a valuable partnership. Needless to say, to to have some iconic figures wearing your headset, it's always a win. I don't know how well an image like this would go in the media, but maybe it becomes a meme. Maybe it becomes like Palmer dancing. You never know. If that does, that would be really sad. All right, last one is prediction of live streaming, specifically volumetric captured video in 5 years. So what does that mean? That means look up the Litro camera for if you want something super sophisticated as far as volumetric capture. Basically, it's capturing a scene and instead of 2D and capturing it in 3D and ideally as big of a thing as possible. So this is Otoy, this is Lytro. There are a couple other companies, but those are the two big ones that come to my mind. And it's rendering that out in real time. And so basically you put on your VR headset and you are literally transported, not any of this 360 nonsense. It is a 3D world that in theory, you could also interact with. And that's the claim here, that this is 5 years out. Probably not the interactive part, but at minimum, the streaming part. And I mean, a lot can actually happen in 5 years. So I actually kind of think it could be realistic, given how many companies are actually working on it. Granted, it's a pretty small subset, and we obviously don't know what Magic Leap is working on. So don't know about that, but I do think that there is some opportunity for that to happen in 5 years. Could potentially even be less if there's some crazy thing that Magic Leap doesn't even know about. So I'm hopeful, but I do think it's on the somewhat realistic timeline of things to happen. People tend to underestimate how far tech can advance, even if there aren't that many people working on it. So, and 5 years, you can think of it as a short and long-term thing. I can see both ways to do it. I kind of think, yeah, summarizing, 5 years is actually a pretty good realistic goal, in my opinion. All right, I'm gonna hop back into chat again. From the game deals on that was 2 cents cheaper. Okay. Magic Leap needs more investor cash to fill its money pit. But why bother when Lytro Tech and when it's already in Unity? Yeah. I mean, I guess Magic Leap is kind of that third. Yeah, I guess it's like the third piece, right? So you have the camera to actually capture the real world. You have the rendering pipeline, which is Otoy, and then you have Magic Leap, which is the headset and the light field display. So those are the kind of three, I should do it this way, 3 pillars as far as what needs to happen for this to actually work. I feel like Magic Leap is trying to get all of this whole pipeline in, and I don't think they're going to succeed at that. They might just succeed on the display side because, actually, they might not just succeed on the display side. I think there's some better tech for it. But they could, that's the really only piece that I feel like is somewhat unique to them. And yet they're trying to have this grand vision of capturing all of it. So I don't know where that's going to go, but could be interesting, maybe not. All right, the last 2 pieces of tech I wanted to talk about is one, Facebook's opening up social VR apps to groups. So I think this might be an interesting way, potentially on these streams, and this is mainly the reason why I wanted to bring it up, is to invite guests from all around the world, invite you guys to be on the channel, and just kind of make it more of a community. So, I mean, we can all just be part of a group, and then anyone can be invited into the stream. I think that would be a really cool, potentially even a cool way to do these. So, again, always looking for feedback, and let me know in the comments, let me know in the chat if that's something you think might be interesting. That's pretty much all I wanted to talk about there. There's nothing really, really spectacular as far as Facebook Spaces go. And the last big topic that I personally found interesting was Google entering the gaming console space to compete with Microsoft, to compete with Sony. And I'm not mentioning Nintendo there because they're not really competing at all. But I think it's interesting. Google is making... I've always thought of Google as a software company. I think everyone does. And they're starting to move into the Pixel, the mobile space. They're trying to move into now the hardware space pretty much predominantly, which I think is an interesting play. I don't think it's necessarily the right play for Google, but then again, they have so much money that they can afford to lose some stuff in R&D anyway. But the main reason I wanted to talk about the Yeti is actually, one of my friends actually mentioned this is also a play into the VR space. So if you think about these Microsoft headsets that'll eventually get ported into the Xbox ecosystem, you have the PSVR, and Google's a big player in this VR space, but they also need a console, kind of a gaming push towards that. And I think the Yeti is their solution to that. I think that's really the main reason. Obviously, we don't really know what team is working on this, and I don't know. It could potentially be the biggest. No, Google Glass was probably the biggest flop that they've ever had. I can't imagine the Yeti being that bad. But I do think it's nice to have an additional competitor, and I think it's also interesting to see where the standalones that HTC and Google are working on, as well, and not really Daydream, but maybe Daydream might plug into the Yeti to make it a better better ecosystem, because I think that's the future that Google really wants to go towards. I don't know. This is pure speculation, but I think it's still an interesting to think about, especially on how all this tech is going to merge, and thinking about the small plays that all these competitors are making to actually push their hardware forward. So that's why I wanted to bring this up. It's interesting. It has a lot to be proven, and I guess this is, I believe, coming down the pipe later this year. Game console, games offline using cloud. Yeah, okay, maybe we don't actually know when this is going to be coming, but I feel like it could come soon. And yeah, that pretty much does it for this this stream. Again, pretty short, and just to hopefully make the video a little smoother as far as when people come and watch that later. I prepared slides, I didn't actually use them. Let me quickly wrap up here, just taking a look at any comments in the chat if there aren't any. And so we have Jawa saying Magic Leap would be MR. Technically, anything that is not VR and is not reality is mixed reality. So yes, Magic Leap is technically mixed reality. But honestly, the term mixed reality gets abused so much that I don't even know what the real actual definition of mixed reality is anymore. I'm going to stick with the old definition and say that yes, Magic Leap is mixed reality. We have streaming gaming to streaming VR. Could be, but they underestimate the market's internet connection. Yeah, I agree. I had that video 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago maybe, on play key and decentralizing streaming, which I think actually worked out pretty well. But yeah, the big problem there is streaming from a centralized location, which yeah, I there's there's no good way around that, honestly. At least for a majority of the world. I don't actually know. I don't even know what percentage of the world could actually stream a game at a minimum of 30 FPS. And 60 FPS is even a smaller number. That's why I'm using 30. But like, yeah, it's kind of bad, and I don't know. So I'm probably gonna butcher this name. Deshritty Labs says, "Do you think someone will acquire Snapchat for their Air platform? Apple maybe." So Facebook's already tried to acquire them, and they said no. Snapchat has an interesting dilemma right now where, I mean, I think they're a little too big. Not, I mean, but there are very few companies that would actually acquire them. It's the same problem that, wow, I'm just blanking out on this name. The finger tracking, Leap Motion. There we go. The same problem that Leap Motion has. There's several series into it, so it's really, really expensive to buy them. I don't think Apple would buy them. I don't think it makes sense for Apple to buy them. I don't think it makes sense for Google. Really, the only person that I would say would buy them is Facebook, or Amazon. Amazon's the other. It's really Facebook and Amazon. Those are the two people that would buy them, but I don't think Snapchat would let them buy them. And I think the big problem Snapchat has right now is content discovery, but the advantage they have is attention. So I'm not sure. They really need to work on the business plan for given that situation, which they don't have, in my opinion, at the moment, which makes them a potential to buy. But I think they're also so stubborn that I don't think they would let them buy themselves. So I think they're going to end up being their own platform that does their own thing, whether it's successful or not. So that's something to be decided, but my gut feeling says that they aren't going to be bought by anyone per se. We need H.265 for things to get a good video-based game stream. Yeah, we need better encoding. That's true. We need a lot of better things to actually get good streaming. But I do think that wireless VR is a step in the right direction to help with. It's not the same problem, but it's at least the tech is somewhat getting there, which is nice. Okay, so I'll stick around in the chat for a little bit, but yeah, I just wanted to keep this stream short, and I'll probably try to do these weekly. I don't know if there's going to be a specific day, and let me know in the chat again if there's any specific days that work better for you. But yeah, I'll try to do something like this because there is a good amount of news that comes in on a pretty regular basis. Pretty regular basis. So I think it's nice to talk with you guys, see what you guys are interested in, see what you guys are looking forward to. And it's just fun. So I hope you guys enjoy this. And yeah, like I said, I'll stick around in the chat. And yeah, if you do us a favor, hit the like button. That helps us out a ton. So until next time, this has been FusedMan, and I'm signing out. All right.